Chapter 7, The Return of Stillmourne, Sleep Edition, where grief decides to make a dramatic entrance. Again. Wreckage of memory and mourning. Shh. The swamp hushes your heartbeat. Tonight, the swamp does not breathe out. It cradles you instead inside one endless, deliberate inhale. That tight ache behind your ribs when you replay the apology that never left your mouth. Every leaf holds its rustle. Every droplet on the moss clings to itself like it fears becoming part of the pond too soon. You are wrapped in the hush of things that never got spoken. Things that still sleep in the back of your tongue, curled up like shy animals too gentle to show their claws. The stillness tonight is swollen, so wide it feels alive. Secrets drip from branch to branch like old ink bleeding through forgotten letters. I'm so sorry. I wish I'd said it sooner. I wish I hadn't hidden so much behind polite smiles and polite silences. In the swamp, nothing stays buried forever. Even your whispers find their way to the surface when the fog is thick enough to listen. Above this breathless lull, Queen Velvet's death parade glides in, their masks perfectly bone white, slit between reeds and cattails, like moon teaching shadows how to silently judge. Each mask a delicate insult pressed from old porcelain, each pair of hollow eyes polished with the fingerprints of 1,000 regrets. If your therapist met these faces, she'd call them back up and double her fee before asking your name. They wear shame like vintage silk, lovely from afar, suffocating up close. A trail of cold perfume and polished footsteps on soggy earth marks their arrival, but not a single one of them disturbs the hush. They carry ruins with them, the kind that doesn't stomp or scream, but settles into your pillow and kisses your dreams awake. Tonight the frogs do not croak. No throat bubbles into the air with gossip. Even the crickets, those tiny night scribes, have tucked their songs underneath their wings, pretending they forgot the tune. The swamp mosses bubbles, old friends to your secrets, hold themselves still, trembling on the edge of a pop that never comes. If you listen hard enough, you can hear their hush hum a lullaby just for you. It's okay to remember everything tonight. It's okay to feel everything you tucked away under tomorrow's to-do list. And the CareCats, mighty, ridiculous, breakable guardians of your soft insides. Tonight, even they bow their heads. Tummy signs, once bright night lights for your bruised thoughts, flicker lower now. Not in fear, no. Something older. Something like a funeral for the parts of you that stayed loyal to your pain longer than you should have. The air tonight wears lavender like a second skin. You smell it before you see it. Diaries you swore you'd burn if anyone found them. Old love letters you never sent. Guilt that once wrapped around your neck like a stolen pearl necklace you pretended was yours to wear. In a corner of the stage made from swamp and memory, Gremlin sits, small but fierce, on her crooked screen corner crate. Wild thing, shriek incarnate, chaos giving claws. Tonight, she clutches her wooden sign to her chest, like a stuffed animal she'd deny loving. Sarcasm clings to her fur, but beneath, if you listen past the bravado, you'll hear it. The trembling sigh of a creature, hoping silence will not ask too much of her roar. This is not the calm before the thunder. No, this is the thunder, coiled inside the belly of the swamp, deciding, just for tonight, it might weep instead of roar. Might floods the roots with gentle storms instead of rage. Might reminds you, as you drift into sleep, that some storms break softly and make space for something tender to grow in their wake. The shrouded arrival. Then, behind velvet's silken shadow, a hush of paws slipping through the wet cradle of moss and memory, she comes. Stillmourne. Once she was ashen purr, the midnight hush you hummed under your breath when grief crawled under your bed, purring its loneliness into your dreams, begging for milk and a warm lap to soak its sobs. Back then, she was the promise that even sorrow can sleep. Back then, she was the promise that even sorrow can sleep if you rock it slow enough and hide it under blankets, send it with the comfort of maybe tomorrow. But tonight, she is mourning, given fur and bones too polite to rattle. She wears sadness like an heirloom shawl, passed down by ghosts who remembered to weep beautifully. She drifts more than she walks, a rumor with whiskers, each a gentle scandal that grief, when loved well, her cloak of black gauze drags behind her, drinking up moonlight and swamp secrets in equal measure. It kisses the mud tenderly, stitching the earth to her shadow. Roots twist upward to brush against its hem, not to tangle but to plead. Stay here, where we understand you. Stay one more dusk. Remind us why sorrow can blossom. Moss, older than her oldest regret, curls around her paws like a cat begging for one more touch. Vines sway, trembling in the hush, daring to stroke her trailing fabric, a slow dance between plant and phantom. Stillmourne does not notice, or perhaps she does, but tonight she is too heavy with old songs to lean down and thank the swamp for loving her even when she's in ruin. She floats, shoulders curved like the inside of a cradle. Above her ears, a crown, not of gold, but of unfinished lullabies. Notes that once sang into someone's chest at 3 a.m, when storms outside were easier than storms inside. And on her belly, the mark everyone remembers. Once it flickered, gentle as a candle inside a borrowed glass jar. The promise of warmth, even if the world turned its back. Now that promise sleeps inside a crystal dome, a coffin so delicate it mocks eternity. Inside, a single moth, wings folded in a prayer too tired to wish for dawn. It rests, dreaming of flame, yet too exhausted to fly toward anything brighter than the dark it knows best. In her presence, the swamp hushes deeper still, Every drop of fog bends to listen. Every unseen tear sighs, "Welcome back." Mordekitten's breath cracks in his throat, louder than thunder ever dared to roar here. His chest trembles with all the old syllables he swallowed in the name of moving on. His claws dig tiny graves in the mud at his feet, trying to bury the ache before it escapes his mouth. But grief never stays buried long in a swamp like this. Ashen. The name slips out anyway, soft as moss, sharp as memory. But tonight it tastes wrong, stale on his tongue, a relic he should have left under the roots with all the other secrets he'd promised not to unearth. Stillmourne lifts her head. She does it slowly, like lifting a curtain woven from her own pulse. Moonlight catches the edges of her veil, and for a heartbeat, the swamp believes in ghosts again. Her voice leaks free, soft as rotting velvet, familiar in the way ruin always is when you dare look it in the eyes. That name is buried now. Please, don't dig it up. Her words do not echo. They sink, heavy as guilt, into the water at her feet. In the hush that follows, somewhere far enough to pretend it didn't mean it, a single frog sobs into its own reflection, a tiny hiccup of sorrow bouncing across a lily pad. The swamp lets it. It knows some grief is safe in water, where it can ripple away slow enough to lull even monsters back to sleep. Mordekitten closes his eyes, wishing he could drown in that same pond, where old names lose their sharpness, and forgiveness tastes like mud and mist. The mist listens, but it does not answer. Tonight, it only holds pieces until someone braver remembers how to speak. Fractures in the silence. Saspern's tail flickers, catches, a tiny defiant flame at the edge of gloom. One spark, enough to remember. Rage and heartbreak sleep in the same tangled bed. "You left," she says, not an accusation, not quite forgiveness either, more of a gravestone etched with leftover anger. Stillmourne lowers her veil just a breath. Behind it, eyes like a cathedral that lost its choir but refused to burn. "I was tired of feeling like a funeral that no one showed up to," she whispers. Each syllable drips the rusted sweetness of apologies, said too late, kept under pillows until they rot. Inside the glass coffin on our belly, the moth shifts. One wing lifts, tests the crystal sky. Queen Velvet, soft poison on regal legs, lets out a purr dipped in venom. She's so delightfully manageable now. Predictable, polite. No more surprise tantrums to stain your swamp of pretend progress. Behind her, Pretentia, a repressipus wrapped in giggles sharper than teeth, titters. "Isn't that what you all wanted? Less mess, more hush, polite breakdowns behind locked cattail doors." A silence so wide blooms in the swamp that even the crickets dare not to fill it. A silence so deep it hums, "Enough." roots of defiance. Gloomper steps forward. No rush, no roar, just soft steps crackling stone truth. You never taught us to bury grief ashen. You taught us to cradle it, to rock its ache until it sleeps purring on our chests. You taught us sadness is a garden, not a grave. Stillmourne's paw lifts midair, hovers, trembling. She looks at it as if it belongs to a stranger. Behind the veil, her eyes flicker, dusk begging dawn not to give up this time. Around her paws, sadness flowers bend closer. One shy petal falls into a puddle, a tiny splash echoing permission. Awakening beneath the veil. Inside her glass coffin, the moth stirs. A ripple, a quiver, a prayer fluttered trapped behind the clearest lie you've ever told yourself. I'm fine. Stillmourne feels it all at once, and nothing at all. She remembers. Cradle song she swallowed to be the strong one. Laughter hidden behind the polite nod so no one would see the tremor. How grief dressed itself up in glitter because it feared being ugly and unwanted. A fine crack splits the crystal coffin. The moth's wings flex again. This time, no apology for how it shivers the swamp's silence. Deep in Stillmourne's ribs, an echo wakes up, hoarse but honest. It's never the grief that kills you. It's pretending you shouldn't feel it. The swamp agrees, hums back a hush like a mother promising, I'm here until you sleep. Gremlin clutches her scream corner sign, voice rough with tears she refuses to call tears. Release it, girl. Scream it shiny. Stillmourne lifts her veil, fully. Her eyes gleam ruin. Her mouth shapes a broken giggle, honest as moss, sharp as rebirth. Apparently, even grief knows how to make an entrance. With just a little glitter, she sighs. Somewhere in this hush, the swamp curls around your pulse. Grief sighs beside you, softer now, less afraid of your dreams. The CareCats guard the sharp edges you forgot to blunt before bed. Sleep. Let Stillmourne hold your unspoken sorrows while you drift. Tomorrow you can unpack them slower, one petal at a time. Subscribe if this swamp softened your night. Share it with a heart that hides too much hush. And come back. Your grief has a garden here, and you are always enough. Good night, little swamp soul. Good night.